The barrier to entry for Bitcoin mining has never been lower, but the barrier to actually turning a profit has never been higher. Getting started is cheap. Building a reliable revenue stream takes serious infrastructure. This chart plots your upfront budget against what you can realistically expect that hardware to output. Buyers often fall into the trap of expecting the massive returns of an enterprise data center rig from a $35 piece of plastic that sits on their desk. To understand why that performance gap is so wide, you first have to understand exactly how these machines hunt for yield. The first method is solo, or lottery mining. This is where an individual machine operates entirely alone, trying to solve a Bitcoin block for a massive six-figure payout. The alternative is pool mining. Here, you combine your machine's computing power with thousands of others to earn small, consistent fractional payouts based on the hash rate you contribute. A successful mining setup requires matching your physical infrastructure and your intent to the right hardware tier. We start at the zero-cost tier. You can use free software like NiceHash to mine on a laptop or desktop computer you already own. The primary engine you are relying on to make this work is your computer's graphics card. If you are paying average US electricity rates, running these programs will cost you more in power than you earn in crypto. You are operating at a financial loss. The math only works in your favor if your electricity is free. For example, if you generate your own power with home solar panels. This matrix tracks three key metrics: power draw, noise level, and yield strategy. Stepping into the hobby tier, you spend $35 to $100 on devices like USB nerd miners. These pull a tiny 1 to 18 watts of power and operate strictly as solo lottery miners. Because their computing output is so incredibly small, the statistical odds of actually finding a block and securing a payout are astronomical. These devices function as educational novelties and cool desk accessories, rather than viable financial strategies. Crossing into the $200 to $1,000 range introduces mid-tier hardware. Companies like Canaan design these specific units for residential environments. This updated matrix shows our jump into the utility tier, where power consumption scales sharply from 140 to 800 watts. While plugging into a standard outlet, that added power means you will absolutely hear the cooling fans. Because of the increased output, your yield strategy shifts. You move away from solo lottery attempts and join a pool for measurable fractional payouts. Computing at this scale follows strict physical laws. Pulling 800 watts of electricity produces exactly 800 watts of thermal energy. The machine functions as a dual-purpose appliance because it radiates that heat directly into your living room or home office. This tier makes economic sense if you are intentionally replacing a traditional electric space heater during the winter. Otherwise, the unwanted heat is a nuisance, and the power cost outpaces the yield. The highest bracket is professional-grade hardware, featuring machines like the Bitmain S21XP. Looking at this final row of our chart, the requirements jump to extreme levels. We are talking about over 5,600 watts of power draw and deafening noise. This hardware requires dedicated 240-volt industrial wiring, making it completely incompatible with a standard household outlet. Attempting to operate a commercial rig inside a home will produce a volume of noise and heat that renders the space completely unlivable. The practical solution to this infrastructure bottleneck is utilizing third-party hosted mining facilities. These are professional operations built specifically to handle the massive cooling, power routing, and maintenance demands of enterprise hardware. Under this model, you buy the machine, they plug it into their cheap commercial power grid, and the Bitcoin it generates gets deposited directly into your digital wallet. If you are treating mining strictly as a financial asset, you must abandon the idea of home operation and outsource the physical infrastructure. This flowchart maps your specific intent directly to the correct hardware tier. It starts with one question: what is your primary goal? If your goal is purely fun and education, your path routes straight to the sub-$100 hobby tier. If you want to offset your winter heating bills with a machine that produces a small yield, route your budget to the utility tier. If you are strictly focused on acquiring Bitcoin at a discount to spot price, your only logical choice is the enterprise tier. And unless your house happens to have 240-volt commercial wiring, that path routes you directly to a hosted facility. Friction only happens when you cross these wires. You will be disappointed if you expect a desk toy to pay your rent, and you will ruin your living room if you try to put a commercial ASIC inside of it. The most effective Bitcoin miner is the one that accurately aligns with your physical reality and your financial intent.